Thank you, Dimitri. And hello, Russia. I'm Allan Pizza, and I'm looking forward to being part of this wonderful series of web seminars called The Whole Life. And I want to start by saying thank you, Dimitri, for the opportunity of doing this. I've been coming to Russia now since Perestroika, 1991, with Anatoly Sobchak, who was then the mayor of St. Leningrad. And, St. Petersburg as it's now called. And I can remember that was my first introduction to Russia and Russians. And I've been coming back regularly since then, and I understand Russian culture. I like the Russian people. You guys are good fun. And Dimitri's good fun, so thank you for the opportunity of being part of this. In my part of the seminars, I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about your business life, I'm going to talk about your personal life, and I'm going to talk about face-to-face communication. In essence, how you can suss out what people are thinking, what they might think about you, and how to work out by looking at them whether they're likely to want to say yes or say no. And importantly, how they give you information that tells you what to do or say next. Now, very few people ever think about the first part of greeting, which is handshaking. Now, when you meet somebody for the first time, one of the most likely things you'll do is what is called a handshake, where two hands locked together. Now, I have here with me, Dimitri, the special secret hand. Here is a secret hand. This is a hand of a woman. It's one of Dimitri's ex-girlfriends. She's from Kazakhstan. Now, when the hands lock together, I didn't mean that, Dimitri, trust me. When the hands lock together, you get one of three feelings for the handshake. Now, the first feeling is it feels pretty good. You feel like the meeting's going to go okay. Then you do a second handshake with somebody else, and you get a feeling they're coming on a bit strong. And you might feel a bit intimidated. And the third type of feeling you'll get is where you feel like you can intimidate, like you're in charge. And it has to do with the angle and the strength of the hand. Now, when two hands lock together, the origin of this, which most people don't know, is in arm wrestling. That's its original position. So in arm wrestling, she wins, I lose. Now I win, she loses. So all we've done is put our fingers below the wrist. But essentially, as you can see, it's the same position as it was 4,000 years ago when it was first introduced into Europe. So when the hands lock together, if his hand is slightly on top of mine, it doesn't have to be right on top, but just a little bit on top, I'll get a feeling at a gut level that he's coming on a bit strong. Now, I won't be able to consciously identify what's doing it, but I'll get a feeling that he's coming on a bit heavy. Now, if it goes the other way, I get a feeling like, yeah, I think I can control the play here. I feel like I'm in charge. If it stays in the middle, that is, if the hand is straight for both of us, you'll get a feeling that you think it's going to go well. So here is how you create rapport with a handshake. When the hands come together, rule number one, keep the hand straight, not dominant, not submissive, straight. That's the first point. Secondly, and this takes a little bit of practice, is to give the same pressure that you receive. So if the other person's handshake in intensity on a scale of, say, 1 to 10, where 10 is very strong and 1 is very soft, let's say that this hand has a strength of, say, 7 out of 10. And let's say mine is a strength of 8 out of 10, then I have to go back 10% to make this person feel comfortable. Now, what happens then if you meet somebody who gives you the dead salmon, the 4 breakfast sausages, and they just all rattle around in there? Everybody knows the dead salmon. It's the most detested handshake. If somebody's handshake is, say, only a 4 out of 10 in intensity, and yours is an 8 out of 10, you need to back right off in power. So now by giving him a 4, it'll feel a bit strange to me, but he will think, or she will think, this person, this Allan, seems to be a nice guy. Thank you for that, Natasha. I appreciate that. And she says it to send you all the best. I'm only joking. That wasn't really Natasha. That was a really hairy guy here in Australia. Now, did you know that 50% of the world's population is opposite sex to you? Did you know that? 50%. That means just in Russia alone, there's about 150,000 people who are opposite sex to you. And you know what? Most of those people think you've got a problem. You have a serious problem that needs some sort of help, probably psychological or counselling. Now here's the danger. That today, it's a different society than what it was a generation ago. A generation ago, it was mostly men going to work. and women staying home, having babies and tending house, which is the way it's been for humans for maybe 1,000,000 years or more. But now it's all changed. Now we have women in the workforce in responsible management positions. In fact, last year, 42% of all middle management positions in Europe were filled by a woman. So now we have women in the workforce who are trying to relate to men and convince, persuade, motivate men. They want men to do what women want them to do because they're in management positions. They want to sell. They want to convince. Now we've got men who really had no previous training in how you sell or convince a woman. So here are all these poor guys, you poor guys, walking around in circles trying to work out how do I convince and sell a woman. Now the thing about this that we know, and I wrote 4 very famous books on this subject, Why Men Don't Listen, Women Can't Read Maps is the one that you probably know. What we found is looking at brain studies that men's and women's brains function in very different ways. Men and women are not the same, despite what the American television might tell you in the movies, where they pretend that men and women think the same way. They don't. And if you've had any experience with men and women, you know that they don't think the same way. We think differently. Now, not better, not worse, we think differently. Now, if you understand how this difference works and you build it into your face-to-face presentation with a man or woman, suddenly they're going to think there's something about you they like. They're going to feel comfortable, they're going to feel warm, they're going to feel like they want to give you a fair hearing, a fair go, which means that they're more likely to say yes to whatever you're proposing. Now, in simple basic structure, male brains, now when I say male brains, that doesn't necessarily fit in a man's body. About 3 out of 4 men will have a male operating brain system. About 1 out of 5 men has a brain system that is what we call cross-sex. That is, he looks like a man, but he has the ability to think in greater or lesser terms in female terms. And 1 out of 5 men is somewhere between the two. And for women, it's roughly the same statistic. About 3 out of 5 women fit neatly into what we call women's brain functioning. 1 out of 5 women's brains is more masculine in its behaviour. And 1 out of 5 is somewhere in between. So we're talking about the overall behavioural trends of brain function here. Now, male brains, I'm sending this message to the female brain people who'll be largely women. I want you to picture that any man you know, doesn't matter whether it's your client, your boss, your husband, boyfriend, son, uncle, father, any male you know or who are likely to meet you. The majority of these men, about 4 out of 5, have a brain as what we call compartmentalised. That is, his brain is made up of little compartments, like little rooms. So picture a honeycomb of little rooms, and inside each room is one function that works very well in isolation of all the others. So for example, most men have a little room in the front right brain here for navigation, finding their way around. On the other side, they've got 2 little rooms on the left side for speaking and language. At the front here is the ability in those little rooms to have logic and rationalisation. Back here, they've got a little room for eyesight and vision. In simple terms, that's how male brains work. That's not medically how it actually happens, but as a model, that's how it works. Now, the cord that connects the left to right brain, see, the brain is just 2 computers put together in a bone cage, and they put it on your shoulders, and they put a cable between the 2 that lets one brain send information to the other. Now, that cable is around 12% thicker in a female brain than in a male brain. And importantly, in a female brain, it carries up to 30% more connections. Now, that gives the average female thinking person what we call multitasking capability. In very simple terms, the average female brain person can do between 2 and 4 simultaneous unrelated tasks. For example, she can run a program on the internet while talking on a telephone about something that's completely different and listening to another person on another conversation and joining in with hand signals and drinking a cup of tea without spilling it. We call this multitasking. Now, most brains that belong to male thinking people don't work that way. They have specific functions, one in each room. Less connections between the 2. They focus intently on single tasks. So most males, in simple terms, ladies, have what we call a mono-tracking brain. In other words, all these men sitting around you right now, these guys can do one thing at a time. And that's how they say it, isn't it? I can do one thing at a time. Well, biologically, the guy's being correct. And he does one thing, but he does it really, really well. For example, if a guy pulls over to the side of the road in his motor car, because he's not lost, he's finding a new way. We don't get lost, we find new ways. He pulls to the side of the road. Let's say he pulls out a map or a directory. What's the first thing he does with the radio? You know, he turns it down or turns it off. Now, most women have seen a guy turning a radio down to read a map. You say, well, how does that work? Well, simple. He can't navigate and listen. He does one or the other. If he comes to a very busy intersection and there's 5 different ways he could choose to go and a woman's talking in his ear, he nearly has a car accident. You can't drive a car and listen and talk at the same time, as all these men here today know. Men can't make love and answer questions, ladies, so please, no talking. Now, this brings us to strategy number 1 when dealing with male brain people. You give these men one thing at a time. When presenting your case, when presenting information to any male, give them one clear point, then stop. So you open the sentence, you tell them the point, and then you stop so they know that was a point. And then you start on the next point and stop. He knows that's a second point, because that's how men talk with other men. Women don't do this. When women talk with other women, how do they do it? Well, they all talk at the same time. Why? Brain scans show why. Because they can. The average woman can speak and listen at the same time. Not only that, gentlemen, she can do it on several unrelated subjects. This can, in fact, occur in one single sentence. So she starts on the first point, halfway through the sentence, without any warning, introduces a second topic, and then she brings in a third topic. Now, all the women know that that was a second topic and a third topic. You guys think it's still the first one. So you're sitting there thinking, I wonder what she's talking about. And you don't know. But you don't say anything in case you look like an idiot. So you go along with it all and you walk away from that meeting, you have no idea what that woman was talking about. Yet she walks away, she's convinced that she's given you a good story and you're thinking it over. So, number 1, give men one thing at a time. Number 2, now for the female brain people, brain scans show that males can either speak or listen. Now remember, that's mono-tracking. Their brains can speak or listen. They don't do both. And that's why when men talk to other men, they have turns. Yeah. They don't all talk together. Not that they're more polite or better. That's the best they can do under the circumstances. They do one thing at a time, remember? So strategy number 2 for the women who are watching now. If a man's talking having his turn, if you want to build credibility for yourself so he thinks you really know what you're talking about, what should you do? Simple. Let him have his turn. Stop, resist talking to build a relationship, which is what you do with the woman. Now, gentlemen, you've got a completely opposite problem with the women in this room and the women in your life. They can multi-track several things at one time. They can speak and listen at the same time. So if you want to be persuasive and convincing with any female brain person, any woman, rule number 1, gentlemen, you must participate in the conversation. That is, talk, open your mouth and show that you actually haven't had a heart attack and died standing up. You are still alive and breathing. This is very important. Gentlemen, do not wait for your turn. There is no turn with women. There's no turn. If you wait for your turn, you just get older. That's all you get. Now, at our web seminars, we're going to explore these issues in depth. And as you can start to see now, if you can understand how to master these techniques with the opposite sex, they are going to love you to bits. They're going to want to feel like they want to be with you, say yes to what you're proposing, and sign what it is that you want to sell. One of the interesting things that probably everybody asks about, how do you know when people are lying? Someone touches their nose, does that mean they're lying? Well, it could. Could mean they've got an itchy nose. The rule with detecting lying is look for at least 3 signals happening at once. So if I say to you, for example, Dimitri, I love talking with you. Now, most people who saw me do that now don't trust me anymore because I did this. But what if I had an itchy nose? Well, you've got it wrong. To get it more accurate, you've got to look for at least 3 things. We call this a cluster. Here's how a real lie is more likely to look. I enjoyed listening to you talk, Dimitri. I could listen to you talk all day. You look wonderful in your new suit. I'm very happy to come back to Russia to see you and your lovely girlfriend. Now, you all know that not only was I telling a pack of lies, but I had ulterior motives. And this is the key, is to know how to read what we call clusters, groups of gestures that reveal a person's real attitude and what their intent is likely to be. And in the web seminars, we're going to talk about this in depth. I'm going to show you how you look at people and you can read whether they're likely to be telling you the truth, maybe holding back, whether maybe they've got a better offer, maybe they will pay the price you want, maybe they will say yes to that date you're asking them to go on. I'm going to show you how to project yourself in such a way that people feel that they want to follow you, that you have something about what they would call a magnetic leader personality. You're like a human magnet, as we say. I'm going to show you how to get people to be attracted to you so they want to do what you want them to do. That they feel like they want to be persuaded and motivated. Well, I'm looking forward to this. It's the Whole Life Web Seminars. And thank you, Dimitri. And I'm telling you the truth. Thank you, Dimitri. Lovely guy. Love your girlfriend. Well, as you can tell also with the web seminars, they're going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some really big laughs. I won't be able to hear you, but it doesn't matter. You can hear me. And it's going to be great fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you to Sobolev Events for putting this on, Dimitri. And I look forward to seeing you guys in Russia on the air very soon. I can't wait. This on, Dimitri.